my mentoring program. So let's go down to the business now, and I'm really happy to be here to share my experience in the validation process, having done myself and having helped many other engineers in the process. So I selected just a few of the most common difficulties during the validation process. There are so many difficulties that I could be here for hours and hours and hours talking about the difficulties and how to overcome those difficulties. But I try to keep the live sessions to half an hour or 40 minutes. So I had to select a few of them. During the workshop, I talk about more difficulties and other hints about the validation as well. So the first difficulty that a lot of engineers they face during the validation process is procrastination. So procrastination, what is procrastination? The probably a common definition is that procrastination is a mechanism for coping with the anxiety associated with starting or completing any task or decision. Or in simple words, putting things off. So there are a few types of procrastinators. I'm not going to talk tonight about the types of procrastinators, but there are a few types, and we majority of us we are certainly procrastinators. It's proven by science that it's linked to genetics. From when we were not very well developed, we tend to kind of not do things to save energy. If you think about 10,000 years ago, we didn't really have supermarkets and we didn't have refrigerators and etc. So our ancestors they had to hunt and to gather fruits and other foods. And when they ran out of food, they had to pretty much just do nothing until they could go and hunt for more food. So they tend to not to do many things to save energy, and obviously they did that for thousands and thousands of years. And for us now, just in the probably few thousand years, we didn't really develop to a stage that we change our genetic programming. So our genetic program is still not to do things. But there are some strategies that we can overcome procrastination. Some of the strategies they could be, for example, first to prioritize your time. Time management is something that really very important for you to overcome procrastination. When you think that you're not going to do your validation process because you don't have time, think about it, because you probably have time. Everybody has the same number of hours in a day, every day. No matter how rich, how busy, or how important you are. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. How do you then decide what to do with those 24 hours is totally up to you. And a lot of people, I see that they say that they don't have time, but then they are doing other things. They have priorities because they have to work, or they have to study, or they have to surf the internet. They gotta browse Facebook or Instagram. They gotta watch the Netflix series or whatever. So, and if you're saying that you don't have time to do your validation, perhaps you need to be honest with you and just assume, just be certain that your priority is not the validation. You have other things to do in terms of your priority. The other strategy is to think about other ways to save money. A lot of people, they have this as difficulty, not having money. But same as the time, probably because they have other priorities. Some people, majority probably of you guys, you are an international student, and then you're saving money to renew your visa. You save your money to renew your course, or you're saving money to do that trip when we can, of course. and or save your money to do other things. You buy a new car or buy a new phone, or even to spending money to go out over the weekend. So again, if you think that it's difficult to validate your qualification because you don't have money, yeah, be honest with you, and perhaps that is just not your priority. You could do many other things to save money. The other strategy, perhaps to help you to overcome procrastination, is to put together an action plan for your validation. The validation process is a simple process, 6 steps, but there's a lot of work involved during those 6 steps. And perhaps what you need to do is to think about those steps, put an action plan, obviously a realistic action plan, and then just follow that up. So, and there are many techniques that you can put together an action plan. The other strategy to overcome procrastination could be to break down objectives, for example, your validation process, in smaller objectives. Even though if your bigger objective is to write your career episode, for example, and then you can break down to write your introduction this week, and perhaps to write the background next week, and perhaps to write a few paragraphs of your personal engineering activity in 3 weeks' time. So break down your objectives or bigger objectives in smaller and more achievable objectives, and that will certainly help you to overcome procrastination. The other difficulty that I listed here was that a lot of you guys, or a lot of candidates or engineering candidates, you don't really have a migration plan. So the lack of having a migration plan. And when you don't have a structured migration plan, it can lead to a delay in the validation. And why is that? Because majority of the permanent migration processes based on your skills, they will require your engineering qualification to be validated by Engineers Australia. And because you don't really have a very strong or a very solid migration plan, then you think, I'm not even going to start my validation process because I don't know what do I need to do as part of my migration plan. So, and what happens when you start doing your validation process without having a migration plan? You run the risk of wasting time and money and having lots of frustration when you don't really have a migration plan. You could be choosing the wrong course. You could be investing time and money on a pathway that won't help you to get your permanent visa in Australia, and other issues as well. So my advice would be to consult a registered migration agent in Australia and discuss with him or her what could be the best option for you. Just a disclosure that I'm not a registered migration agent, so I can't really provide advice on migration processes. A lot of people, they ask me about types of visa and other migration issues, but because I'm not a registered migration agent, I can't provide advice on that. The other difficulty is that I listed was that sometimes you don't know what experience to use in the validation process. And this is a very common difficulty that many engineers have. And sometimes because the experience is not related to the course graduation, sometimes because you haven't worked in your field after your graduation, or sometimes because you are a fresh graduate and you don't really have a work experience at all. So those could be some of the difficulties that you could have in relation to how can you choose the right experience to write in your career episodes. So what do you need to do? First thing, you gotta think about the basic principles that will kind of guide your validation process. But the basic principle, the most important principle to choose a good experience for your validation process, is that they need to be matching with the ANZ SEO occupation definition that you will be applying for. ANZ SEO definition is Australia, New Zealand standard, what do you call? Standard competency occupations. So it's part of the federal government. It's part of the Australian Bureau of Statistics. The Department of Home Affairs or Immigration Department, they use the occupation definition in the ANZ SEO in their migration process. And Engineers Australia, they follow the Department of Home Affairs, and they also use the exact same definition of the occupations. So when you go there, and if you look at, for example, civil engineer, there will be an occupation definition according to ANZ SEO. And in that definition, it will pretty much establish the activities and the scope of a civil engineer here in Australia. And if your experience does not match with that definition, you got to think about a little bit better, because if you write your career episode based on an experience that doesn't really match that definition, occupation definition, Engineers Australia will probably most certainly reject your career episode. The other principles there could be that the experiences, they need to be complex engineering experiences. So, and every engineer will know what is complex and what is not complex in their field of engineering. So if you have if you are a civil engineer, if you are a mechanical engineer or a mining engineer, you will know what is complex, what is not complex. So in the booklet, it says that the engineering experiences, they need to be complex. The other principle is that you need to address you gotta use experience that you can address the 16 competencies required by Engineers Australia. You may or may not know, but when you write in your career episode, you got to address 16 competencies that are required by Engineers Australia. And your experience, they need to be complex and broad enough so you are able to address those competencies. The other principle is that you need to have enough supporting evidences. Every time that you write your career episode, you need to be able to provide supporting evidences. It's most certainly that Engineers Australia will ask for supporting evidences of your experience. If you don't have it, you may get in trouble. Another principle is that you need to be able to get a reference letter from your employer or from your ex or former employer. And this reference letter is very important because it's part of one is part of the checklist that Engineers Australia will ask to you, and secondly, because it's one other piece of evidence of your competencies. And there is, I don't know if I'll be able to open this. I'm just going to check because I would like to open I just like to open the ANZ SEO occupation definition. So hopefully I will be able to, let me see, Chrome, where is that? Where's my Chrome? ABS. Yeah, I think I'll be able to open yeah. So I hope you can still see that. And I hope that you still can hear me. So this is the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And this is the ANZ SEO, Australia New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations. Hi, Jacqueline. Yeah. Good evening. How are you? And this page here I'm just going to show you what did I do first. The sound is a bit low, Jacqueline is saying. So just going to check, Jacqueline, what's happening there. I'm going to open. Is it better now? I increased a little bit the sound, the microphone. Is it better now? So hopefully it is better. I'm going to check with my monitor here. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, thanks, Jacqueline. Thanks for the feedback. So what did I do? You can type engineers, A and Z SEO, just that. If you do that, you're going to get the A and Z SEO Australian. That's pretty much it. And this one, you will find then engineering professionals. And once you go to engineering professionals, then there's lots of categories here: chemical, materials engineers, civil engineering professionals, electrical engineers, electronics engineers, industrial, mechanical and production engineers, mining engineers, other engineering professionals. So let's go to electrical engineers. Because I know that Jacqueline is electrical engineer. So let's have a look here. The electrical engineer, I'm going to make it slightly bigger. So electrical engineers design, develop, and supervise the manufacture, installation, operation, and maintenance of equipment, machines, and systems for the generation, distribution, utilization, and control of electric power. So yeah, that is the definition there. So this is the code that you guys will be using. That's the ANZ SEO code for electrical engineer. And if you are validating your qualification as an electrical engineer, that's the code. And the experiences that you need to use, you need to make sure that they match with this definition here. There are some specializations there: electrical design engineer, railway signaling engineer, signaling and communications engineer. So if you are validating as an electrical engineer and if your experience doesn't really match with what is written here, think about it, because Engineers Australia may not accept your career episodes. And then you can do that to pretty much any other category. You go back to engineering professionals, and then you can go to the list here, and then you will find your type of engineer here. When you go to other engineering professionals, there are a few other lists here. So aeronautical engineer, agricultural engineer, biomedical engineer, engineering technologist, environmental engineer, naval architect or marine designer, or engineering professionals. This NEC, it means not elsewhere classified. Let me see if it's here. Yeah, it says here, this occupation group covers engineering professionals not elsewhere classified, NEC. Occupations in this group includes mechatronics engineer, product design engineer, and any other engineer that is not in the list of Engineers Australia or in the ANZ SEO occupation definition. Then you can go to the engineering professionals not elsewhere classified. All right, I'm going to show you how the PDF is taking shape. So that's how the PDF is becoming. So I'm going to expand a little bit as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm probably going to do now, I'm going to take a picture of this, and then I'm going to post in my Instagram. And there is a question there. What is yours? Most common difficulties in the validation process. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to post this in my Instagram, and I would like you guys to like and in the comments answer that question. And if I have answers and likes in my Instagram post, then what I'll do, I will create this PDF here, and then I'm going to post in my Telegram. So I will get that. Most common difficulties, next, and I'm going to put what is your difficulty in the validation process? Okay, share, and that's it. It's posted in my Instagram. So what you need to do is to, if you want the PDF, of course, you need to go to my Instagram and then like the post and make a comment. And then what I'll do, I will create this PDF and I'm going to post in my Telegram group. And there is a catch. There is a password. And the password is going to have two halves. And the first one is the word common. C-O-M-M-O-N. Common. So I'm going to write in the comments because my English is not very good. So I'm just going to put the word. Those ones that they're not watching, they're not going to know what it is, but you guys will. So I'm putting YouTube. I'm going to put now in Facebook, and I'm going to put in Instagram. So that's the first half of the password, common. And the other half I'm going to give towards the end of the live session. So you guys stay with me. Okay. So the other difficulty is not being a good report writer. So a lot of people, they have this difficulty and they ended up delaying the validation process because you think you are not a good report writer. And you're probably correct, because the majority of engineers, at least myself, I consider myself not a very good report writer. I had to learn, and I did many courses to improve my report writing. So nowadays, probably I'm better, but I don't really like to do it. But anyway, are you guys a good report writer? If you write yes in the comments, it's because you are. If you write no, it's because you probably like me, that you're not really a good report writer. What do you evaluate yourself? Do you evaluate yourself as good or bad report writer? Let me see. Let's see how many people are good report writers here. Anybody there? What you guys think about if you are a good report writer or not? I'm going to answer some of the questions there. Deborah in YouTube, she asked, do I have to meet all the criteria or only one of them? For example, supervise but not have proof of design. Yeah, that's a good question, Deborah. And you mean that criteria is the criteria in the definition of the ANZ SEO, or you talking about the competencies? For example, this one about design is competency PE 2.3, which is about design. And in design, there are many things that you need to demonstrate. But I'll explain a little bit of those ones. If you're talking about the competency, for example, PE 2.3, which is about design, it's a good idea to be able to demonstrate in the career episode many aspects of the design process. If you demonstrate just a few of them or not a lot of them, Engineers Australia assessor may not deem you as competent. Right? You remember, the design process, the design competency is a process. You need to be able to demonstrate that you followed the design process since the beginning, defining the scope, understanding the needs of your client, until obviously the development of the design, checking standards and calculations and analysis, and even proof of design, if you could. And then towards the end, the final product, design documentation, and etc. So the more you can demonstrate, the more solid and stronger will be your career episode. And that's what I tell my students, and I teach in my mentoring program, how you can make your career episode very strong, how you can demonstrate then the many examples, because sometimes you don't really use examples because you don't know what can you use under each competency. And that's something that I teach in my mentoring there. All right, just checking. Yeah, Jacqueline said that no, she's not a good report writer. Yeah, it's like me. And just checking in other Facebook. No. All right. And why do I say that you need to be a good report writer, or at least you need to learn how to write a good report? You need to remember that each career episode, you will be required to write between 1,000 and 2,500 words for each career episode. I always recommend and suggest you guys to write close to the maximum number of words, 2,500 words, because then you will be able to demonstrate more competencies and also going deeper in the demonstration of those competencies. So if you think about 2,500 words, it can be quite many pages, can be 5, 6, 7, even 10 pages, depending on obviously the number of evidences that you include in there, in terms of tables and pictures and photos and calculations and etc., diagrams. But 3 career episodes, 2,500 words each, so we're talking about 7,500 words. And then your summary statement, the middle section of your summary statement, you probably will need to write between 1,500 words to probably 2,000 words just in the middle column. So there is a lot of writing. All up could be close to 6, 7, 8, even 9,000 words. So there's a lot of words that you need to write. But sometimes you are afraid because you don't know. First, you don't know what to write about. Second, because you don't know what examples you can use to address those competencies. One thing that happens with my students is that in the beginning, before doing the mentoring, they have very limited writing, Some of them, they manage to write like 1,200 words. And then once they know what they need to write and the amount of evidences that they can write, some of them, they already written more than 3,000 words. And I had to ask them to cut some of the words because it was more than 2,500 words. So in the end, ended up not being very difficult because once you know what to write, then it's going to be easier for you to understand and to write your career episodes. Yeah, Jacqueline is asking some keywords that you suggest to strong episodes. Yes. Yeah, certainly there are some keywords that you need to write about, especially to address the category that you're applying for. There are 3 categories that you can apply for: the category of professional engineer, engineering technologist, and engineering associate. And if you are applying for professional engineer, for example, there are some keywords that you need to use to demonstrate that level. And because English is not really our mother language, we tend to be a little bit limited when we are writing our reports because we don't really know the terminology. We don't know the right verb to use. So I strongly encourage you guys to read. It's not a pleasant read, but you need to read technical magazines. You need to read technical articles. You need to read the technical specifications and standards, where you're going to be able to learn and to use as reference as well in your report in terms of vocabulary, technical vocabulary. So yeah, those ones that are doing my mentoring program, I've got a special module that I specifically talk about the terminologies for professional engineers. And I also have terminologies for engineering associates. What else here in terms of the report writing? Yes, another strategy that you can do to address your difficulty of not being a good report writing is to plan in advance. Having an advanced thought are the keys to success. I say that pretty much 80% of your time you should be dedicating to planning and to thinking about what you're going to do. And then once you plan and once you know what you got to do, the other remaining 20% is going to be your writing. We think that we have difficulties in report writing, but the root cause is probably because we didn't really think and we didn't really plan very well. And because we didn't do those things very well, we think that our difficulty is about writing, when in fact, the difficulty is about planning and thinking. So another big issue that a lot of people they do, people leave things to the last minute. People have a lot of time to do it, but then procrastination obviously takes over, and then you procrastinate, and then suddenly, let's say that you have a job offer or somebody is willing to give you a sponsor, and then you got to do it in a very quick manner. And if you are pressured about the time, then it's going to make more difficult for you to write your report. So if you are thinking about to validate your qualification, don't leave to the last minute, because if you leave to the last minute, you are not going to have time to think, to plan, to organize, and those things will help immensely the data and information gathering that you have to make. Because once you do all of those things, plan, think, organize, data gathering, etc., it will just be a matter of organizing those information and then to write your reports. The other difficulty that a lot of people they face is about plagiarism. A lot of people they don't start writing their career episodes because one day they don't know what to write, and then sometimes they actually engage other companies to write on their behalf. And I would like to just leave a warning here, because in the booklet it says that if the career episode needs to be your own work, you need to write it yourself. So if you ask somebody else, if you pay a company to write on your behalf, this is considered plagiarism. It's a breach of the Code of Ethics of Engineers Australia, and obviously it's an unethical behavior. And if Engineers Australia catches you, they will, one, not approve your application, and two, they may apply a banning period of up to 3 years. So which means that for 3 years you're not going to be able to apply for the validation process again. And also they say that they might send your details to the Department of Home Affairs or Immigration Department, and for future investigation and actions by that department. So it's very serious, and a lot of engineers, they have plagiarism as difficulty because they ended up engaging somebody to write on their behalf. And even though those companies, they say that they give you a plagiarism-free report, but who knows? Who knows from where they copy the career episode? So, in Engineers Australia, they have a very advanced plagiarism detection software, and if you ask somebody else, you will get caught. I got already many messages from many engineers that they asked me to help them because Engineers Australia caught them, and they were banned and they got their application rejected. So there's not a lot of things you can do if you really copied, or if you really ask somebody else to write on your behalf. So it's really serious. And this probably is another reason why I started my project, because those messages from those people pretty much begging me to help them because they got caught. That's why I then start to share information with you guys, and I started my mentoring program so I can teach engineers how to do it so they can do themselves, so they don't get tempted to ask somebody else to write on their behalf. So, but obviously here everybody's an adult, and I'm not here to tell you what you need to do or what you're not going to do. I'm just alerting the risks. The risks are there, and those companies, they're very strong in their marketing, and because of procrastination, you may get tempted to ask somebody to write on your behalf because it's going to be obviously much easier. But the risk is very big, and the process is simple. Obviously, it's not very easy because it needs a lot of time and effort, but it's certainly worthwhile. If you get caught by plagiarism, it's probably your dream to come to Australia or to become an Australian permanent resident. That is not going to happen anymore. All right. So I'm going to give you guys the second half of the password. So the second half is difficulties, and I'm going to write in the comments. And what you need to do, again, you gotta go to I'm just going to write in YouTube difficulties, and I'm going to write in Instagram difficulties. All right, so what you need to do is you need to go to my last post in Instagram, where I have the picture of the Word document with the question. What is your difficulty in the validation process. You need to like that picture and then write in the comments your difficulty in the validation process. And if I have engagement, then I'm going to produce the PDF of this live session, which is this one. And then I'm going to post in my Telegram group. So that's how the PDF is going to be. I'm pretty sure that I can ask this to you guys because I spent a lot of time putting together this material. It's everything for free. So the only thing that I'm asking is for you to like my photo in my last Instagram post and write a comment. If you don't do it, then I'm not going to post the PDF in the Telegram group. I'm just going to give the PDF to my students because obviously they are my students and they don't need the password. It's an open document for them. Yeah, yes, it's unfair. Yes, it is. No, it's not, because they are my students and they deserve a special treatment as well. So that's how the PDF is taking shape. Not being a good report writer, plagiarism, and that's it. So we are already 45 minutes, so I will probably going to just double check if I have more questions. If I don't have it, I would like to thank you guys very much. So I'm just going to check in YouTube. No, it's all good. YouTube, Facebook. Yeah, it's all good, looks like. And then Instagram, I believe it's all good as well. Instagram is all good. All right, so I would like to thank you guys very much for your participation and attendance tonight. And next week is going to be live session number 100. And I haven't decided yet what's going to be the subject. But if you have any suggestion, if you would like me to talk about a specific subject, please send me in the comments or send me an email. My email is admin@engineersinaustralia.com. You can send me an email with your suggestion, and I will endeavor to cover if I have time there. But certainly, I'm going to choose a very special subject for next session, because it's going to be a session number 100. All right. We'd like to thank you guys very much, and I'll see you next Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time, here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you very much.